Hello and welcome to the Daily Post on the 20th of December. We bring you some thoughts and scriptures and ideas that we hope will help you through the day. The scripture to start us today is from Psalm 101 and verse 2. I will behave myself wisely in a perfect way. O when wilt thou come unto me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. If you're reading the Bible in a year today, the target is Micah chapters 1 to 3 and Revelations chapter 11. Some thoughts of the day. Enthusiasm is the inspiration of everything great. Without it, no man is to be feared, and with it, none despised. Those who are fired with an enthusiastic idea and who allow it to take hold and dominate their thoughts find that new worlds open for them. As long as enthusiasm holds out, so will new opportunities. Success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. The motivational thought for the day: if you let fear of consequences prevent you from following your deepest instinct, then your life will be safe, uneventful, and lacking in miracles. On this day, in 1879, Thomas Edison privately demonstrated incandescent light at Menlo Park. In 1924, the leader of the German Nationalist Party, Adolf Hitler, was released from prison after serving 8 months for high treason. He was involved in an activity which became known as the Beer House Putsch. In 1936, on this day, at least 200 were reported dead in an earthquake in El Salvador. And in 1957, American rock and roll star Elvis Presley was called up to join the US Army. In 2007, on this day, Queen Elizabeth became the longest living British monarch. The personal story of the day: God's power is better than fame. The scripture is from 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 5, with references from 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verses 1 to 17. For we preach not ourselves, but Jesus Christ the Lord, and ourselves your servant for Jesus' sake. Walt Disney was once asked how it felt to be a celebrity. It feels fine when it helps me to get a good seat for a football game, he answered. But it never helped me to make a good movie, or a good shot in a polo game, or command the obedience of my daughter. It doesn't even seem to keep fleas off our dogs. And if being a celebrity won't give one an advantage over a couple of fleas, then I guess there can't be much in being a celebrity at all. The Apostle Paul also found that celebrity status wasn't an advantage. Some of the Corinthian church had begun to identify themselves as followers of their favourite preachers, to the detriment of the church and of those who had come to be viewed as Christian celebrities. The city of Corinth was built on a causeway between two seas and located on the main commercial route between the east and the west in the Roman Empire. This meant that the Corinth church was located in one of the busiest and most influential seaports of the ancient world. It was a specially gifted church that had enjoyed the ministry of some of the greatest teachers of the New Testament era, as we read in verse 3 and verse 12. Instead of benefiting from these blessings, however, the Corinthians had begun to divide into sections, into factions. Some had identified themselves as followers of Paul, others of Apollos, and some of Peter. Few had adopted a super-spiritual approach by refusing to listen to any human teacher at all. This inner rivalry splintered the church and obscured its message. Christian discipleship was no longer about following Christ, but a matter of following human teachers. Ironically, despite excellent teaching and a wealth of spiritual gifts, the Corinthian church became spiritually complacent and arrogant. When it should have been one of the strongest churches, the tendency to fight over teachers made it one of the weakest. This fractured its relationships, hurt its testimony for the unbelieving world, and threatened to empty the message of its power. Because of this, one of the Corinthian church's greatest strengths became its greatest weakness. The devotional thoughts of the day, the first, a visit to the well. A guide in Israel was preparing to lead a tour into the desert. His instruction to the group was simple and clear. If you do not have these two items, I will not allow you to accompany us. You must have a broad-brimmed hat and a full bottle of water. This will protect you from the sun and from the thirst caused by wind and dryness. Water is essential to survival. That's why the woman came to the well in Samaria, as we read in John chapter 4 and verse 7. She came at noon, when few people were there. She was startled when a young Jewish man asked her for something to drink. Jesus broke huge barriers with this request. She was a woman, had been married many times, and wasn't a Jew. Jesus offered her water far better than that from the well. He had, quote, living water, which only he could give, as we read in verse 10 and verses 13 and 14. She listened to a sample of that water and was spiritually blessed, for she told everyone what she had experienced. Come, see a man who told me things that ever I did. Could this be the Christ? We read in verse 29. Are you at the well? Is your soul thirsting for God? Do you need the cleansing and refreshment he offers? He is waiting there to satisfy you with the living waters of salvation contained within the gift of everlasting life. Pray in the Spirit, support the fellowship, convert new souls for Christ. The second thought, obstacles on the way, and the scripture is from Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 13, and make straight paths for your feet. There are always hindrances along the way. A hindrance either discourages or it becomes a starting point for a new miracle. Hindrances often seem overwhelming and impassable, and they are meant to stop us. But they can also lead us to new heights of strength and inspiration. Hindrances often reveal weaknesses and imperfections in our lives, but they can also cause new initiatives, new strength, and new wisdom to come into our lives. The human mind often wants simple and convenient solutions to every problem. It wanted the hindrance to disappear as quickly and painlessly as was possible. But most often, this is not the case. Life is not a TV game. There are so many more ingredients, and the solutions are often very different from what we had thought. There is no doubt that hindrances are to be removed. But during this removal process, even the hindrance is doing something in our lives. It pushes and shoves against our weak sides, so that when it is finally removed, we are changed. This is how it is for everyone who is exercising, developing, and striving to reach a particular goal. The runner's weakness becomes the focal point for intense training, so that what was weak is made strong. It might even go so far that the weakness becomes the runner's strength in the future. Therefore, weaknesses, hindrances, and resistance should not discourage us. Some people hate problems, but problems are not really a problem. They are there to be solved, and there are always solutions in God's heart. Hindrances that appear to stop us can be transformed by God's hand. He can turn what was meant for harm into something good and use it to do more than we could ever imagine. The facts of the day: the Dead Sea is 365 metres or 1,200 feet below sea level. A storm officially becomes a hurricane when cyclonic winds reach 119 kilometres per hour or 74 miles per hour. The closing thought for today: Lord, remind me that today is a day that you have made for me. Don't let me waste it. Thanks for joining us this morning. We hope that the Daily Post will assist and uplift you through the day, and we hope to see you again tomorrow morning. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.